Welcome to Restoria. I'm Jenna, and this is your cozy corner for gentle bedtime stories. Each night, I'll share peaceful tales made to quiet your thoughts and guide you softly into sleep. So settle in, get comfy, and let the story carry you into rest. The story tonight is called A Hammock Made of Time. Chapter 1. A lattice of quiet. The porch boards sigh beneath Nora's weight as she settles onto the old wooden bench. It's been there longer than the house, maybe rough at the edges, silvered by years of sun and rain, each creak a memory. She tucks her feet beneath her, skirt pulled gently at her ankles, and reaches for the spool of rope beside her. The morning is hushed but full, not silent, just soft. Wind stirs through the tall grass like fingers in long hair. The trees respond with a leafy murmur, and birds offer up their commentary in measured tones from somewhere farther off, as though trying not to interrupt. There's a kind of orchestration to it, not composed, but naturally attuned. Nora begins with the first knot, over and under, pull and loop. Her hands know the motion. There's a steadiness in the repetition that roots her, tethers her gently to the porch, to the day, to herself. The hammock is slow to form, as it should be. Is not something to be rushed. Each knot is a pause, each strand a breath. The rope is soft and yielding, but it holds the shape she asks of it. A cradle, she thinks, but not for a child. A cradle for stillness, for the weightlessness of a body at rest. A small moth lands on her knee, pale wings folded like soft paper. It sits for a while, still as a stitch, then flits off when the wind lifts again. Nora watches it go with a gentle kind of attention, like turning a page in a favorite book. By mid-morning, a squirrel skitters along the porch railing, its nails clicking a quick little song. Nora doesn't look up. She smiles faintly and keeps weaving. Her shoulders rise and fall with an even rhythm. Her thoughts are few. A neighbor passes by along the narrow path that cuts through the field. They lift a hand in greeting. Nora lifts hers in return, but her fingers never leave the rope. There is no urgency in the exchange, just the quiet knowing of people who live near each other in slow places. She pauses only once to sip water from a mason jar, the glass cool against her palms. beads of condensation slipping down her fingers. A dragonfly hovers nearby, its wings catching the light like fine lace. For a moment, they regard each other, the creature and the woman, two still things in a moving world. Then it moves on, and she returns to the bench, returns to the hammock, returns to the motion. The breeze picks up slightly in the afternoon, tugging the edges of her shawl, ruffling the rope ends that trail like soft tails. Still she weaves. Her fingers are not tired. The rhythm is too kind for that. She hums a little, not a tune exactly, just a ribbon of sound to wind through the stillness. It joins the wind, the birds, the creak of the porch, the chime in the field that sounds only once, a single golden note. That note lingers in the air longer than it should, or maybe time itself has slowed just enough to let it stretch. By the time the sun leans long across the grass, the hammock is nearly done, a gentle net of knotted patience. She ties the last few strands and smooths them with her palms, feeling the even tension, the honesty of the work. She stands slowly, stretches, then steps down into the field to tie the ends to the sturdy beams that frame her porch. The hammock dips slightly, then sways. It rocks once, twice, as if testing its own balance. Then it settles. Nora looks at it a long moment. A smile forms, not the bright smile of triumph, but the soft one of something finished with care, something made with love and slowness. She lingers on the porch until the light turns amber. Supper is bread with soft butter and slices of golden peas. She eats slowly, watching the hammock shift in the wind like a curtain of rest. The porch holds her in its own way. Too old wood, old wind, old comfort. When the first star appears, she steps into the hammock and curls onto her side. The knots hold her gently. They do not press. They welcome. Above her, the sky deepens. A soft purple folding into navy. The wind hums its low lullaby through the beams, and as she drifts, Nora thinks this is what peace feels like when it's made by hand. Chapter 2. Beneath the evening sky. The hammock moves like breath, slow, rising, falling as twilight settles across the land. Nora lies nestled within its weave, arms folded gently, her shawl gathered around her shoulders like a cloud caught in fabric. Above her, the stars begin to break through the deepening blue, delicate and quiet. The air has cooled, not sharply, but with a hush, the kind that coaxes shoulders to relax and minds to drift. A night bird calls once from the grove beyond the field. The sound is low and unhurried, part of the evening rather than apart from it. Nora listens without reaching for it. She lets it settle in the space between thoughts. A second call answers even softer, and then the hush falls over again. The porch is dim now, lit only by the hush of starlight and the faint memory of sun caught in the wood. The wind has slowed. Even the trees seem to pause. In this hour, time does not end. It simply drapes itself across the world like a thin, warm blanket. The wooden beams above her frame the night like a doorway she need not pass through, just watch from. The woven knots beneath Nora cradle her with more than softness. They carry the day's slow care, each one a moment, folded into another. She shifts slightly, and the hammock responds with a gentle sway, a conversation of silence between body and craft. Her fingers rest on the knots, the texture familiar now, comforting, not unlike the feel of worn pages in a loved book. From the kitchen window, a faint golden glow spills across the floorboards. It's the lamp she left burning on the sill, not bright, just enough to remember by. Sometimes she likes to think the house stays awake for her, keeping vigil while she rests. It breathes in its own way, the soft ticking of the clock inside, the occasional whisper of wood shifting in its frame. Far off, a fox cries a brief sound, plaintive and soft-edged. Then stillness returns. The world feels folded in on itself, content to be just this. A hammock, a sky, and the long hush of dusk. The kind of stillness that asks nothing of her, only that she be here. Nora's breathing deepens. She doesn't try to sleep, she lets it come like the tide, slowly, without asking. Her hand drifts over the rope lattice beside her, fingers tracing the path she knows by heart now. Over and under, pull and loop. The pattern echoes in her fingertips, a memory made tactile. She thinks about the way light feels different at night, not gone, but gentle. The stars do not dazzle, they whisper. The breeze no longer teases the grass but glides through it like a sigh. Even the creak of the porch has become a lullaby. There's a kindness to the dark here, not an absence, but a soft presence. A cloud moves slowly across the moon. Nora watches it drift, watches the way it blurs the edges of the light. There is no story here, no great event, only presence. The feeling of being exactly where she is, in a hammock she made, beneath a sky she's known all her life. This moment doesn't ask her to remember or plan, just to be. Her thoughts meander soft paths through quiet woods. She remembers her mother humming while snapping beans. She remembers the weight of a cat once curled at her feet. She remembers the scent of lavender in a drawer lined with cotton and thyme. Each memory rises gently, then fades like a small boat slipping through water. The night does not deepen so much as settle. Each passing moment, a feather added to the hush. Nora closes her eyes, not to shut the world out, but to let it in more gently. Her chest rises and falls with the hammock, with the field's breath, with the slow turning of the sky. Somewhere, a moth flutters against the screen door, drawn by the lamp's dim pool. The sound is small, a whisper of wings against wire. It stays only a moment before finding its way back to the dark, back to the air that feels like velvet, like sleep. In the hammock, Nora sighs, not from sadness, not from weariness, just the kind of sigh that comes when everything is finally quieted, when the world no longer nudges or asks, but simply allows, and above her the stars keep blinking, steady and slow like breath. Chapter 3. Garden echoes. Morning arrives gently. It seeps in rather than bursts forth, a pale, pearled light that glides across the fields and brushes the cottage eaves. In the hammock, Nora stirs, but does not rise. The air smells of damp earth and something faintly sweet, like the first breath of blossom from a not quite awake garden. She watches the sky change through half-lidded eyes. Lavender into rose, rose into soft gold. It happens slowly enough that she can follow the shift. Let it move through her like tea warming a cup. She blinks once, then again, the way one might savor the last few notes of a lullaby. Eventually, with a small exhale, she sits up, the hammock responds with a lazy sway, as if reluctant to let her go. She smiles at that, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear, and swings her legs down to meet the dew-slick porch. The wood is cool beneath her soles, not startling, just honest. She walks barefoot into the yard, the grass wet and cool against her skin. The morning is quieter than evening in its own way. Fewer birds, no foxes calling, just the soft ticking of time waking up. Somewhere a branch drops a single bead of water, a slow drop into earth. In the side garden, the soil is dark with yesterday's twilight rain. Nora crouches beside a patch of herbs, thyme, mint, and lemon balm, and runs her fingers gently through the leaves. They release their scent like breath against her palms. She closes her eyes. The scent reminds her of kitchens in quiet afternoons, of steam curling from mugs and sunlight warming stone windowsills. She thinks about how the garden echoes things back to her, not words, but responses. When she waters, it blooms. When she speaks, it listens. When she rests among it, it holds her in green arms. Everything here has its own pace, and none of it rushes. She moves slowly along the beds, checking the beans, the lettuces, the curling tendrils of squash. Each plant is a quiet companion. Some lean slightly, reaching for the sun. Others tuck in on themselves like sleepers in mid-dream. A ladybug makes its way up a tomato stem, a red dot among the green. A single bee wobbles past her ear, sleepy in its flight. She watches it dip into a blossom, linger, then lift again, a golden thread weaving through morning. Its buzz fades, not sharply, but as though it's being gently tucked away. Nora straightens and brushes soil from her hands. The sun is higher now, warming her shawl, drying the dew from her feet. The light has shifted from gold to something quieter, a soft lemon cream that lays itself across the ground in ribbons. She walks back toward the porch, past the hammock, which now hangs motionless waiting. On the steps, she pauses. The door creaks open with familiar weight, and she steps inside. The kitchen is cool and dim, the kind of peaceful that holds quiet without needing to hush it. The walls carry the scent of tea leaves and old pine. The table by the window waits with quiet patience, its surface dappled in shadow and light. She fills the kettle and sets it to boil. The sound of water heating is soft, steady. She pulls down a tin of chamomile and rose hips, the dried petals rustling gently. She measures them with her fingertips, not a spoon. Some things she thinks should be done by feel. As the tea steeps, she sits by the window where the light paints slow gold across the floorboards. Outside, the garden sways in a breeze, barely strong enough to name. A few sparrows hop along the edge of the path, pecking at seeds in quiet ceremony. She cradles the mug in both hands, breathes in steam and morning and memory. The tea smells of sun-warmed fields and gentle endings. She lets the warmth move through her chest, into her arms and down to her fingertip. The day stretches before her, not as a task to conquer, but as a quiet path to walk. And the garden, just beyond the sill, waits with open arms. Chapter 4. Threads of the Day. The afternoon drapes itself lazily across the cottage, a quilt of mellow light and shadow. Inside, the walls breathe a familiar warmth, each room holding the quiet weight of lived time. Nora moves softly through the space, her presence no louder than the breeze slipping through the slightly open windows. Her steps are unhurried, the kind of steps that come when there's nothing urgent calling, only the long hush of comfort. Even the floorboards beneath her seem to welcome each step without protest. She places the empty teacup in the sink, the ceramic giving a gentle clink as it settles. There's no rush to clean, no urgency in the rhythm of the day, only the ease of motion shaped by softness, the kind of motion that keeps the day smooth, like a ribbon run between fingers. A leaf outside the window sways and twirls, catching sunlight in its slow descent. In the sitting room, she dusts the corner table with a cloth of faded linen. The wood gleams dully in the afternoon sun, like something once polished by care, now simply tended. The books stacked nearby are familiar, their pages softened by repetition, their spines bowed with quiet use. She lingers on the titles, running her hand along one cover as though greeting a friend not seen in some time. A small photograph in a wooden frame catches the light, her younger self in a garden, laughing, hair wind-blown. She smiles at it, but does not touch it. She opens a window wider. The air that enters is scented with sun-warmed grass and something green, not not sharp but alive. She stands there for a while, letting it wash over her face, feeling the pull of day turn gently toward its later hours. The curtain beside her lifts and falls in a rhythm that mimics breathing. The house seems to breathe too. Somewhere deeper inside, the old floor shifts softly as if settling again. Later, she sits with her journal. The pen moves slowly, sometimes pausing in the middle of a word. It's not the thoughts themselves she's chasing, but the act of giving them shape, setting them gently on the page like stones along a path. Her handwriting is looped and relaxed, meandering like a slow walk through the woods. Each letter a footstep. She writes of the hammock, of the stars, of the lavender by the door, not because they are remarkable, but because they are present, because she was there with them, because some days are not made of moments to remember, but of presence gently noticed. She draws a little sketch of the garden's edge, just enough to suggest the outline of P. A clock ticks in the kitchen, not loudly, just enough to stitch the room together. The second voice in the house, calm and measured. It has kept company with her through many hours, early risings, late musings, the occasional drift of thought. Outside, the hammock stirs slightly in the wind as though remembering her weight. A blue jay lands on the porch rail, then takes flight again. Even its wings make a hush. The breeze follows behind it, brushing gently along the edge of the porch. A rustle of leaves responds in kind to soft conversation held in the open air. She leaves the journal open and walks outside again, drawn by the shape of light on the path. The stones are warm beneath her feet. A butterfly flutters across her vision, white, small, unrushed. She watches it circle once, then drift away as softly as it came. Even its flight feels part of the silence. At the edge of the field, she pauses, looking out over the land. The grasses sway like lullabies. Nothing calls to her, nothing pulls. She just stands and breathes, and lets the afternoon continue stitching its slow seam through the fabric of the day. The air holds a faint warmth, still not of noon, but of something remembered, something that doesn't need to be named. A distant tractor hums beyond the hills, its sound barely a suggestion. She does not mind it. Even that here feels like part of the rhythm, a thread in the soft weave of everything, a voice so far away it only adds to the quiet, and somewhere within her another knot is tied. Chapter 5. Twilight Mending. The sun begins its descent with unspoken grace. Shadows stretch long across the porch, folding softly into one another like cloth laid gently on cloth. The sky holds that particular blue that only comes before dusk, deeper than day, but not yet night. It's a blue that quiets the thoughts without effort. Nora stands in the doorway, a folded bundle in her arms. It's an old quilt, edges fraying, colors faded like pressed flowers in a book. She carries it to the rocker by the porch rail and settles into the seat, setting the quilt in her lap. The chair rocks slightly as she leans into it, her body finding the familiar cradle of its curve. Her sewing kit sits beside her, its lid creaked open to reveal needles, threads, and small scraps saved from years past. She selects a muted green and threads the needle with slow, practiced hands. Her fingers move with memory more than intent, the way a pianist might play a lullaby long memorized. The porch sighs beneath her as she begins. One stitch, another. The motion is quiet but full. She doesn't try to hide the mended places, they are part of the story. Threads lay down like footprints across old paths. The needle dips and rises, dips and rises in gentle punctuation. A light wind brushes her cheek. The birds have quieted, save for one soft call from deeper in the woods. A cicada hums somewhere, low and constant. The world seems to lower its voice as the sun dips further, as though whispering its way towards sleep. The leaves on the trees rustle only when they must. Nora adds a patch shaped like a leaf. It once belonged to a dress she wore the summer her niece visited. They picked berries and laughed so hard they cried. She smiles just a little as her fingers guide it into place. That laughter still echoes faintly, stitched into the threads like a breath caught and kept. She doesn't need the full story to return, only the scent of the fabric, the color, the weight of it in her hands. That's the gift of quiet work. It brings back not detail, but essence, emotion, softened by time, rising like steam. The sky softens further lilac now, streaked with amber. A moth drifts past her shoulder, seeking the lamp she hasn't yet lit. She lets the moment stretch, unlit and simple. The moth hovers, then veers away toward the garden, its wings whispering through air. Her needle moves without question. The rhythm is slower than in the morning, more tender, as if the fabric, too, knows the day is drawing to its end. She breathes in time with the motion, in with the draw, out with the pierce. She thinks of the hammock, of how each knot she tied had its own small story, and how this quilt, even in its quiet unraveling, has its own breath, its own slow remembering. There's something about mending that feels more real than making new, a kind of love that chooses to stay when she ties the final knot. The patch lies secure, not perfect but honest. She lays a hand over it, palm to fabric, and breathes out slowly. There is nothing more to add. The patch doesn't blend in. It belongs. The rocker sways a little as she leans back. The sky is velvet now. One star winks through the dim. The field is hushed, as though the grass itself has settled in. The porch, the quilt, the shadows all seem to gather close, and the quilt, worn, mended, remembered, rests in her lap like a story told softly in the dusk. Chapter 6. Lantern Light. The first true dark of evening settles with the gentleness of a shawl laid across shoulder. The last streaks of amber pull themselves from the sky, leaving behind a softened hush. In this in-between time, the world seems to hold its breath. Nothing rushes, nothing asks. Nora stands from the rocking chair, the quilt folded neatly over her arm. The air is cooler now, edged with the promise of night. Her hand finds the porch railing as she steadies herself, not from unsteadiness, but to feel the grain of the wood beneath her fingers. Old, familiar, grounding. She breathes in the scent of pine and dust and something faintly floral, a perfume caught from the garden's edge. The porch boards creak once beneath her heel, then still. She steps inside and moves through the house without switching on the overhead light. Instead, she lights a single lantern from the shelf near the door. The The flame flutters, then holds steady, casting a circle of golden glow that clings gently to the room. Shadows retreat, but only just still present in the corners, softened now like old memories. They seem to settle in beside her, unbothered by the light. The lamp's light softens the edges of everything: walls, table, the quilt, now resting again across the back of a chair. Shadows stretch long and slow, not hiding, just folding themselves into the quiet corners. The room holds its breath in the hush of low light. Time moves differently in lamp glow, not forward or back, just wide. She moves to the kitchen and pours a glass of water, the tap cool and metallic. Her reflection trembles slightly in the window, not quite visible, not quite gone. Outside, the stars have begun to thicken. They look close tonight, as if one could pluck them from the sky, like frost-bright berries, a kind of nearness that doesn't ask for reaching. She carries the lantern with her through the room's one soft pool of light drifting across the floorboards. Her shadow follows, not looming, just trailing gently, as if it too is tired in a kind way. The floor creaks once, then stills. In the corner, a basket of yarn rests quietly, half-finished skeins tucked like sleeping kitten. Back on the porch, she places the lantern on the small table beside the rocker. The light glows through its glass sides, warm and still. The moth returns, drawn once again to its halo. Its wings make no sound, but its presence is felt a small hush that circles the flame. Nora watches it with a fondness reserved for creatures that know not to disturb. Nora sits in the chair once more, this time empty-handed. She rests back, eyes on the sky. The stars are bolder now, not twinkling, blinking, slow and steady, like breath, like the soft press of her heart within her chest. One star near the horizon flickers as if caught in thought. She counts them idly, then loses count. It doesn't matter. What matters is their presence, that they arrived quietly as always, that they keep their rhythm even when unseen, like the tide, like breath, like memory. Somewhere in the field, a low rustle, a fox perhaps, or wind turning over a patch of dry grass. She doesn't look. It is enough to know that something else moves gently nearby, a companion in the hush, a kindness not needing to be named. The lantern's glow is small but certain. It makes no demands, just stays and lights and waits, a keeper of the in-between hours. Its flame leans ever so slightly when the breeze passes, but never wavers. And Nora, still as the chair, quiet as the evening breathes in the soft weight of night, not trying to understand it, just belonging to it, held not by answers, but by presence. Chapter 7. Midnight Drift. The night deepens by degrees, like ink drops slowly into water. It does not fall all at once, but gathers layer by layer, hush by hush, until the world is wrapped in soft, uninterrupted dark. A darkness that does not press, but welcomes. Nora has not gone back inside. She remains in the rocker, the lantern's glow beside her, now a quiet beacon, its flame thinned to a slow dance. Above her, the stars seem brighter still, as if the sky has leaned closer to listen. Each star carries a hush of its own, small, patient, steady. The wind has quieted even further. Trees no longer murmur, they breathe. The air is velvet now, cool, gentle, slow, a blanket without weight. Somewhere in the grass, a cricket begins to sing, just one, then silence again. She shifts slightly, tucking her legs beneath her. The quilt lies nearby, within reach, but she does not need it yet. The stillness itself is enough. Inside her, a calm has settled, not dramatic, not sudden, just the kind that arrives when nothing is asked of you and everything accepts your quiet. She touches the edge of the quilt absently, her fingers finding the patched leaf from earlier, and now calls, low and deep from the far edge of the field. A single sound, then silence again. Even the owl does not insist. Its voice feels folded into the dark, part of the fabric of midnight. Nora closes her eyes, not to sleep, not yet, but to listen differently, with her skin, with her memory. The night speaks in textures, the cool air on her cheek, the familiar groan of the rocker, the warmth left by the lantern's glass. A cicada chirps once, far away and faint. She imagines the world around her unfolding even as she rests, the grasses swaying gently, even if unseen. the moth returning to its shelter, the fox curling into a hollow, all of it continuing its own soft version of being, the same way the ocean moves while the shore sleeps. She breathes with the night in and out and in again. No thoughts sharp enough to shape into words, just sensations, just the drift. Her breath rises like mist, invisible but felt. A breeze stirs the hem of her skirt, barely lifting it. It smells faintly of something sweet, maybe wild mint, maybe dry hay warmed earlier by the sun. It is a scent that belongs to no single place, but rather to the feeling of night itself. She breathes it in like a lullaby. The sky continues to deepen. A slow ink spill turned to velvet. The stars pulse gently, not twinkling now, breathing, keeping time with her. The constellation she doesn't name flickers above her, familiar in a way she cannot explain. And finally, her body begins to soften at the edges. Sleep does not rush her. It hovers. It waits. It knows she will come. Her limbs feel heavy, but not burdened, just ready. She draws the quilt over her lap, leans deeper into the chair, and lets her breath slow further. The flame beside her flickers once, like a good night, then steadies again, as if standing guard, and Nora drifts not away, but further in, into the quiet, into the dark, into the deep and gentle hush of night that needs no ending. Chapter 8. Woven Rest. The porch holds her. Long past midnight now, the cottage behind her breathes with quiet walls and resting beams. The lantern has dimmed to a low golden sigh, its flame a whisper on glass. Even the flame seems to sleep with one eye open. The glass fogs slightly from the cool air outside, making the glow blur at the edges. Nora is not quite asleep, but not awake either. She floats in the space between, not drifting anymore, but woven in. Her breath has slowed, her limbs weightless, her thoughts like feathers settling one by one. Nothing is reaching for her, and she reaches for nothing. She belongs to this stillness the way thread belongs to cloth. Above her, the stars continue their gentle pulse. The sky is vast, but not lonely. It is full of soft presence of things unseen, of rest given without request. The stars do not need her attention. they only need to be. She feels their quiet company through closed eyes. The quilt now rests across her chest, warm but not heavy. The patch she stitched earlier presses lightly against her collarbone, its edges known to her even in sleep. The weight of her work now holding her back, as if the memories stitched into it are keeping watch. There is safety in that remembered fabric, the small trust of thread and time. A breeze stirs the porch. The moth returns once more and circles the fading light. Its path slow, gentle, as if it too knows that this is a place meant for rest. Its wings graze the lantern glass once, then flutter upward into the dark. A soft moment, unnoticed by all but the quiet. Somewhere nearby, the fox watches from the grass, its eyes low and still. It does not intrude. It does not move, only shares the silence. A flick of its tail, then nothing. Its breath rises in small puffs, lost to the dark, and within the silence, everything is present. The stitched fabric, the creak of the porch, the scent of soil cooling beneath the stars, the long hush of a day made slowly, a hush not of endings but of continuings, the kind that holds you when no one else is near, the kind that hums beneath words. Nora breathes again, and this time the breath is deeper, a breath of surrender, not to sleep, but to belonging, to having made something, to being held, to the softness of a night earned not by not. It is the breath of being known by stillness. The hammock sways once in the breeze, though no one lies in it now. It moves gently, the way water rocks a dock, the way a lullaby rocks a heart. Its knots gleam in the starlight, each one silent, certain, each one bearing witness. The rhythm it keeps is not of time, but of care. And the cottage waits behind her, steady as ever, its rooms full of softened air and moonlight, its doors closed but not shut, a place made of returning, a place that breathes slow, that knows how to stay, each floorboard and beam resting in the dark, holding its part of the quiet. Nora doesn't stir again. The porch holds her, the quilt holds her, the dark holds her. The silence is no longer absence, It is fullness. It is shelter. It is the final exhale of a day gently lit, and the night, vast, breathing, alive with stillness, settles around her like a second skin, a softness wrapped in time, in labor, in rest, a night not visited but lived within, a night made by hand and worn like grace.